I swear to God. Mom?
I see it. Is it by the tree?
Yeah. I swear to God. Mom?
I see it. Is it by the tree?
Yeah.
So, Claudia, I first um, became aware of you through Christopher Noel's Impossible Visits YouTube channel, and
Yeah,
I think that's one of the most important Bigfoot YouTube channels that exists. The stuff that he has gathered and the perspective that he gives on Sasquatch is truly amazing.
it is. He's a great researcher. I've known him for a lot of years, and his knowledge, his honesty is very impressive, and he's one of my heroes for sure.
Yeah,
So honored.
I've got a bit of a man crush on him, but the some of the audio that he got of the tree knocks and the pine, they were throwing pine cones at him and stuff. That was pretty amazing. I haven't really seen anybody else get that much stuff without like hoaxing or something. I mean, that was the
Yeah,
real deal.
and you could hear the tree fall when he was sleeping. I don't know if you heard that on his
Yeah,
channel.
it
That's pretty.
it fell like 6 feet away from him.
I know, which is frightening.
Well, that's
But
the thing. I was just down in Oklahoma, Claudia, and we had a lot of activity. I made like a 15-minute video on all the audio that I captured, but on the second night, something came walking into our camp, 3:30 in the morning. I was woke up. I never wake up in the middle of the night, but I woke up and there's something stomping around a campsite. I mean, there's no one around for miles. This is a very remote location,
yeah,
and I freaked out, and I'm like, oh my god! I put my hands over my ears because I'm like, I'm going to go back to sleep and just ignore this. As soon as
yeah.
I as soon as I put my hands over my ears, I could just feel my heart pounding, and it was
No,
vibrating in my ears. I
yeah,
w- I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I'm like, there's something that's 8 feet tall and could possibly rip me apart, and it's
yeah,
10 feet away from me. I've never been in this situation before, you know?
yeah. It's really scary. So the size of them are. It's so. I always wonder why people get the fear factor coming into them, and it's the feeling that we never really believed in it, and then now we do. I always wonder why it is a fear factor. What does that to us? But it is really intimidating for sure, especially when you're in front of one, and it's 8 feet
Right.
tall.
Which you
So
did. And what amazed me about your encounter is you know not only had an encounter, and you not only had an encounter with your children, you also caught video of it.
yeah, my daughter behind me was filming, and I didn't even know it. I was just staring at him, just thinking, what am I going to do? What if he comes at us, or what should I do to prevent it from coming at us? Or, is it what I'm looking at? Is it really real? Is it a shadow? There's all these thoughts that go through your mind during an encounter.
Now
So
who's the person in front? Is
that's
that
me. It's
that's
me.
you?
Yeah. And
Uh,
you want me to tell you the story, or I
oh,
mean, most people have heard it.
totally. That's how I want. That's how I want to start the podcast. I want you to tell me that whole story and what led up to it and all that
Okay.
stuff.
So what happened was we live in Los Angeles and we live in the city. So I was looking for something in the woods because it's cheaper to live. The cost of living is a lot cheaper. So we ended up finding a nice little house. And we were just there about 2 weeks. And I was looking for a trail to just kind of hike and check out. And before I went on the hike with the girls, I did go on that trail and I didn't see anything dangerous about it. I thought, oh, this is a good place to take my children, not even looking for Bigfoot, just a nice little trail to go
Hmm.
walking in the afternoon with my kids. So one day they came home from school. We did dinner, they did homework, and I said, "Do you guys want to go on a hike?" And they said, "Of course." Now my kids haven't really gone camping. They're not really into the hiking stuff, and I don't want them on their phones all the time. So I thought it'd
Oh,
be
I
a good
know.
to take them, hiking. So it was around 6:30 at night. I get in the car and we drive it's about a 4-minute drive, 3-minute drive, 4-minute drive. very close to my house. So we get out of the car, and during the drive, I tell my daughters, like, if you see a bear, you don't run from it. You know, mountain lions get you from like behind. It kind of, they're sneaky little critters. You know, you got to watch your surroundings at all times, and never ever show fear to anything ever. Don't ever show fear. Fake it until you make it. And my daughters are rolling their eyes at that point. But we had a great time at the beginning. We start walking. So my youngest daughter's in the front of the trail. She's skipping and having fun. And then my middle daughter, my teenage daughter, she was 14 at the time. She's in the middle, and I'm in the back for obvious reasons, to watch out, to make sure they're safe. So we were walking, and about a mile into the woods, we noticed that there's a tree that's blocking the trail, but it's still alive. Like, it's a beautiful, lush tree that's blocking the entire trail. So we have to kind of walk around the tree to get back on the trail, which I thought was kind of weird, you know. And we keep walking. There's another tree that's blocking the trail. So now there's two trees within a couple 100 feet from each other that are blocking the trail, which is, I'm telling you guys this for a reason. They block trees or trails to tell us to get away, but we don't even know. We just don't know. So we get to a third tree that's blocking the trail, and at that point, there's a curve. And at that point, I took a picture of my daughter. She's kind of posing for the camera. You see my dog frozen in the picture. My youngest daughter is walking, turning a curve, and she goes over the third tree. And at that point, she freezes. And I'm looking at her as a mom, and I'm thinking, oh no, she sees something, because she stops to move. She puts her hands down, and I knew something was in front of her. I just didn't know what at that point. So now my teenage daughter is caught up with her, and they're standing side by side. Now she's frozen, just staring straight. And I knew at that point, I got to get moving. Now, all that day I had is my bear spray and my cell phone. So what I do is I run as fast as I can in front of them to protect them, thinking I'll see a bear or a coyote or something. So when I jumped in front of them, I walked 20 feet, and I look up, and there's a Sasquatch male, huge. And I walk about 20 feet in front of my daughters, and something in my head said, don't get any closer, which is weird. I still can't figure that out, because I don't talk to myself that way. So I looked at him, and he was enormous, maybe 800 to 1,000 pounds. And he was in a V of a tree. Now, what I did is I looked at him, and I raised my hands up, and I said, we come in peace. I don't know why I said that, but I did. So
Star Trek.
yeah. So my daughters are saying, mom, mom, mom. And my other little girl, she's like, I want to go home. I want to go home. Then he looked at me, and then he looked at my daughters a certain way that I didn't like. So what I did is I whooped at him, and I did it twice. And then the reason why I did that is to tell them that I know about their kind, and don't look at my kids, look at me. Because no matter what comes in front of my kids, I'm going to defend them to my life if I have to. Just whatever.
Right.
I know I'm not going to win with a Sasquatch, but whatever I could do to save my kid's life. Because at that point, they don't look very friendly. If you ever go face to face with one, they don't smile at you. They have a gray skin. They have big black solid eyes. Some of them.
Monster.
So yeah. So I told my daughters, like, do not run, hold hands, and start walking back to the car now. You know. And I'm in the medical profession, so we've been trained not to panic when there's an emergency situation, just to stay calm. You know, kind of. If I'm upset or like afraid, it's going to rub on my children, and that's what I don't want. So we start walking back to the car, and let me tell you, like, that mile and a half was so hard, because I kept looking back on the side thinking, are we going to be ambushed? So we get in the car, and my little daughter's in the back seat, my daughter's in the front seat. She locks the car doors right away. She's like, mom, like, it was like a horror movie, like, get the keys in the ignition, you know. So at that point, I told my daughters in the car, we're still sitting there, what do we just see? Because I didn't want to say the word Sasquatch. I just said, what do we just see? And then my daughter's like, a monster. Like, my little one said, well, the two of them that ran right next to me. So as I was taking the picture before the encounter, two of them ran next to my daughter. And she said one was kind of small and one was kind of medium. And they ran behind the big one, but it ran right next to her. And she said the one in front was looking at her as it was running forward. And she said they look really mad. That's how she described it. So here, my better half is research. His name is Ed Brown. He's a researcher too. So he's at the house visiting us. And I'm thinking in my head, like, what am I going to tell him? Like, what am I going to say to him? Hey, we ran into Sasquatch. Sure you did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so convenient.
Yeah. Sure you did. You know? So I told my daughters, like, how am I going to tell Ed what just happened? And my daughter goes like, well, I recorded it like a couple times. And I thought that was really brave of her. She had an iPhone 5 at the time, and she didn't just videotape the creature. She was videotaping as we were walking, to do a Snapchat in the woods,
Yeah.
She was just having fun. But let me just tell you, that day, the innocence of children, my children, it was taken from them. Because later on, my daughter came and she said, like, you told me that monsters aren't real, and they are. So now they have a huge fear of like the woods. They had trouble sleeping at night. It was a lot more traumatic for them than it was for me. Just because I was scared, and I have a hard time understanding what we saw, even though it was not my first sighting. It would be my second or third sighting that I've had, but this one was really close, and that was alone with my kids, which made it a
Now,
lot harder.
now, what we see in the video, we just see that short frame of something up in the trees, but you saw a lot more than that.
Oh,
Is
I
that
saw him. Yeah, the video that she took doesn't give just of what I saw. Like you could see his facial features, his skin
right?
color, gray, solid black eyes. He gave me a dirty look. Like he starts to rock back and forth at the end. And I saw him look down like he was gonna jump, and like he was getting nervous, because we were just kind of standing there watching him. And I was thinking in my head, maybe he wasn't aware that we're like staring at him. Maybe he thought that we would just keep walking, not see him. I don't know. There's all these thoughts that go through your head when you have a sighting. For
Right.
those people that want to see one so bad, like I never asked for this. I didn't want the Bigfoot to be a part of my life. Like I didn't grow up to say I want to be a researcher when I grow up, but I feel like God put this in my heart for a reason. It's to help other people. I'm starting a national PTSD group throughout the United States, free to the public. So people that have these sightings that they can't cope with, they have a place to go where it's a safe haven, no judgment, no ridicule, and I just want to do something to help other people with this, because it's really hard. Once you see one, you can't get it out of your mind. It changes your life in a
Well,
drastic.
so you actually believed in Bigfoot before this?
Well, I had a sighting before this, 6 years before I had this encounter. So it's called a Barb and Gabby cloak video. It's a video where I went to Washington State. I got to meet a wonderful researcher. This is before I had a Facebook page. And what happened was in 1997, I went camping with a couple of roommates of mine. And we went to Upper Falls National Park, Yosemite National Park. And we tented up in this area where there's not many people, and we heard a huge growl. Like, how you were scared in the tent, like you didn't want to
Hmm.
move when you heard it.
Yeah.
So we heard a huge growl, opened the zipper, and we see something bipedal walking into the wood line. So for years, that was always like bothering me, wondering what did we see that day? Like, and as I got older and more confident, I asked one of my friends, we were talking about what's the most scariest thing we've ever like experienced. And I told her that was a situation. And she said, well, have you researched like Bigfoot? And she was like being serious. And I started laughing, chuckling, going, no, like what? So I was not really a believer in it until I started researching it. And then I became friends with a lady named Barb and Gabby. It's a video. I started messaging her through YouTube, and she invited me to her area. So we ended up going there, and for a week, for 7 days. And we slept out in the woods. Like we did everything hiking. We had everything from like rocks being thrown at us to like the screams at night to looking at glyphs and structures. Um, and what happened was I think it was like a Wednesday. It was on 9/11, 2014. We were walking, and she stopped us, and she said, my dog for some reason always stops in this area. And we went to the left instead of walking straight. And she was showing us a tree that's been like bent and twisted. And as she was talking, you could see me in the video. I felt like that for you guys, if you feel that sense of something's watching you, most likely it is. So I started looking around, and I saw a creature that was about 5 feet tall. He was about 75 feet from me. And he saw me. I saw him. He was holding with one arm on a tree. He jumped off the tree, took two bipedal steps, and went quadrupedal away from us. And that was like an experience, because on her camera, it looked like it was cloaked. It looked like the Predator. So it became a real like topic, that she caught that on camera, which was an amazing experience. But with my solid eyes, I saw a creature with like flesh and blood. I saw his skin, I saw his hair, his eyes. So it's very weird, the whole
Well,
experience.
that's nuts. You're talking about walking back to the car with your daughters, and I can't. imagine being with your kids and having to worry about this. Being by yourself is bad enough, but do you ever hear Kerry Arnold's
Oh yeah.
encounter? And he has to walk back to the car after seeing this thing that's making all these noises at him. And
Yeah.
he had to walk back, and he's like, "This thing's going to be waiting on me." I can't imagine the fear.
Oh, it's so scary. And I mean, when you have the responsibility of your baby
Yeah,
bears, it's like, please God, don't let anything happen to my kids. Like, do whatever you want. If something has to happen, let it happen to me. You know, it's something that you don't ever want your kids to see ever. So it's traumatized them a lot. You know, now they're older. One's 18, one's like 17, and they're grown up now, you know, but it's still like they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to go to the woods. We moved back to the city. So it's been really hard.
so
Really
they don't want to talk about it. I mean, like you're fascinated by it, or disturbed by it, whatever, and you want to talk about it, and you want to shout from the rooftops about it, but they just don't want to talk.
Well, at first, the oldest one had a really hard time at the very beginning. She was like terrified. And she keeps a lot of things in. She doesn't really express herself the way I would like her to. But the little one, she'll say things like they are real, like, or the way when she was interviewed by other people, she walked like the Patterson footage when she saw the two of them running right next to her. But they don't want to live in the woods. And I don't blame them. Like they're scared. They don't want to live in the woods. The reason why I'm so adamant about learning about them and doing something to help people is because that day when I saw the creatures, and my daughters and I were walking away from the trail into our car, and we see somebody pull up with kids and a family, and I go up to them and I say, "Don't go over there. There's Bigfoot." They'll say, "She's crazy. There's no Bigfoot. Are you kidding me?"
Right.
So I wanted to, and there is Bigfoot out there, and I wanted to like warn people, like what there's not just mountain lions and snakes and whatever out there. There's a lot more out there. So, yeah, it's really scary.
Now, what was it? I just totally forgot what I was going to say. So, um, you got the video of this, and you actually took legal action against the state of California, was it?
Yes, I did. And I still am. So, what happened was about a week later, after I was like, because you're kind of traumatized for a couple weeks, you can't sleep at night. Those of you who had encounters, you play it over and over through your head. So I thought I'm going to call first of all, who do you call? Do you call 911, Fish and Game, Forest Service? Like, you don't even know who to call because nobody ever
Ghostbusters.
called like the dispatcher. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I called them and I said, look, like, I'll do a drug test, a lie detector test, whatever you want. I want to report a Sasquatch sighting that my daughters and I had. And like, it's quiet on the phone. It's like, hello. Hello. No, it's like she thinks it's like a prank, and then she goes, well, you're reporting a Sasquatch sighting. I said, yes. And I said, I don't know who to call, if it's Fish and Game, the Forest Service, like, who do I call? She goes, I don't know either. And I said, yeah, we're both in the same boat, but she said, I'll have someone call you. Please stay close to your phone. So I gave her my information, and within like 5 minutes, even closer to that, my phone rings, and it's the Fish and Game. And she's like, you had a sighting of a Sasquatch? I said, I sure did. And I said, it's on video. We have a 22-inch footprint, a 13-inch footprint. My daughters are witnesses, and they're old enough to talk. They can tell you what they saw. So she asked for my address. She comes to the house within like 5 minutes. She's at my house, and she keeps telling me that her supervisor's going to be on the other end. That he wants to hear what I have to say. So I told her, I showed her the videos, showed her the footprints, everything. And she says, okay, let me message my supervisor. So she gets on her phone. She texts him, and we're waiting there, kind of uncomfortable. And then he responds back, and she takes a sigh. She looks at me, and she looks at her phone, and she said, you saw a bear. And I go, that's not a bear. Not a bear. I know what I saw, and it wasn't a bear. Like, we have bears come in our backyards quite often. It's not a bear. And my kids don't react the way they did. So I felt really stupid, and we went back and forth and stuff. And I asked her, like, after she was trying to convince me that I saw a bear, I said, I have questions for you now. Has anybody ever been hurt on that trail? And she goes, yes. And I go, what happened there? And she said, there was a little Boy Scout, and they were trying to earn their badges. And she said they went out there, and a little boy brought food into his tent when he was told not to, and a bear got in and hurt him very, very, very badly. And I'm like, was it a bear who hurt him? You know, I mean, I was just like, so she hands me like a pamphlet on how to protect yourself against bears. And I'm like, what's this? And she's like, it's a pamphlet on how to protect yourself against bears. And I'm like, I need a Sasquatch pamphlet. I don't need a bear pamphlet, you know? So that day enraged me because you feel like it's already hard enough to make that phone call. And then when she comes and tells you that all you see is a bear, it's like a slap kick in the face and in the stomach, you know, and I got really enraged. So what happened was I heard Todd Standing talking on Sasquatch Chronicles, and I heard him talking about his lawsuit in the Canadian government, and that gave me like a ding in my head. I'm like, that's what needs to happen because nobody knows what to do after they have an encounter. So I messaged him on Facebook, and he got back to me, and I told him, look, like my name is Claudia. We've been friends on Facebook for a couple of years, but I've never talked to him. I wasn't friends with him until that time. And I told him, like, I'll do what I have to do to protect the public. And I'm not afraid of ridicule. I'm not afraid of what anybody thinks about me. I know what I saw that day. I'm a strong woman, and I want to take this to court. So he was nice enough to come on his own dime. His wife was like pregnant, high risk. They came, and he stayed with me for 7 days, and we went to court, got the paperwork. And it was kind of funny. You go to court and you ask them, like, I want to sue the government. And they don't even know what form to give you. They're like, Martha, is it form 772 or 482? Martha, you know what I mean? Like, they don't even know what to give you. So we went to see a paralegal, and she's brilliant, very, very intelligent woman. And we sat there for 3 days up. You know, we only had like 3 hours sleep in 3 days. And we wrote the petition of why we're taking this to court. And then we went to file in court. And what happened was I got a court date. We had to pay like $1,600 just to file alone. That was just to like get a court date. And an attorney contacted Todd and said, I want to represent her. Like, she has to stop her case because she goes in with what she has. Like, they're going to eat her alive in court. Please let her stop, and then I will take her on like pro bono. So I felt really like I started to cry because I was so grateful. And he's in Texas. His name is Bobby Garcia. So on the last day, Todd's like, Claudia, you got to stop it. Let's just take this attorney. You need an attorney. So I stopped the court case. It's pending. It's not like stop. It's just without prejudice. That's what that means. So I went to court, stopped it. Without prejudice means I'll refile when I'm ready. And I never heard from the attorney. Once we went back and forth. So it was kind of a big scam, which really upset me. But now I have more evidence because I moved again to this place where, oh my gosh, it was crazy where I moved because I moved where the daughters and I had a sighting, and that's like where they live, the creatures. Like I found 12 structures behind my house. I sent you some pictures of it. So it's just, I saw dogmen, and people aren't talking about the dogmen, the ones with the snout. Yeah. So, and then I got so accustomed to it that I saw them, and they were like trying to get in through my windows in my house. It's those horror movies that you see, you know what I mean? So it's crazy. They do follow you. People say they follow you home. They do.
Yes, Scott Carpenter is a big proponent of them following you.
Yeah, and they do. They do. And they don't mess around. It's like on Thanksgiving Day, I was attacked. It was horrible. Like, I'm not even ready to talk about it. But I was alone day 2 years ago. And they knew I was alone. I woke up in the morning, opened up my windows because every window had to be covered with like curtains or sheets because they would look through every single window. And when I woke up in the morning, I was alone. I opened up the curtains and I see them all around the house, just kind of like one was on all fours on my neighbor's balcony. One of my neighbors died mysteriously in that house, and they left like the furniture behind. One of them, the other neighbor, she left for the week for Thanksgiving and went to see her children. So I was totally alone in a secluded area in the woods. Then it started to snow. They turned off my power. They took the wires off my power, electricity. They're very smart. So I was kind of alone there without power during a snowstorm.
This is Dogman.
Huh?
This is Dogman at this point.
There was both of them there. Both of them were there. So yeah, it was.
So what do you say that? Now, one of my friends asked me this on Facebook, and this is probably a question for him. He's like, look at the video that you posted, because I posted it on my Facebook page, and he said, "Are you sure that's not a bear?"
It's okay. I mean, it's not the clearest photo. If they want to believe that it's a bear, that's okay. It's everybody has a choice. Like, I'm not gonna degrade him as a human being because he doesn't agree with me. If he wants
Right.
to believe it's a bear, it's a bear. I really don't care what people think. I know what I saw. My daughters know what they saw. We found toes. I mean, I was close to him. It wasn't like we were far away. It happened at the time. I'm pretty sure if he looks at some videos that are out there that people analyze, I think he'll be
Yeah.
more people
There's
looking
one.
at it.
Yeah, there's one that someone analyzed. I think he was European. I'm not sure. He's a funny accent, but he analyzed the distance and stuff.
Yeah,
He went out there and took photographs, and he was saying about how you said it was like crouched,
yeah. He was
and
sitting down.
and the
Yeah,
thing must have been like 10 feet tall.
yeah. He was huge. You could even see him kind of like when he was sitting on. He was sitting like there's there was a tree limb that he was sitting on. His
Right.
weight. But you could see his muscles. You could just see how big he was, and that's what was most terrifying for me. Just when people say like it was so scary because you see like how big. It's like looking at a gorilla, like a male gorilla. Silverback.
It's
You just
scary
look at
enough.
it. It is. But I mean, it's not the clearest photo, it's not the clearest video, but I do give my daughter credit for being as young as she was to be at that moment to be smart enough and to record it. You know what I mean?
Well, you
Even if
can
it
see
was
it.
just
You
a
can see
second.
its head moving. It's moving.
Yeah, he started to rock really fast. You didn't see it recorded, but he started to rock like really fast. You know how they rock back and forth?
Yeah, that's what
So
Chris Noel calls the what is it? The savant. He thinks that there could be a lot of autism involved in Sasquatch behavior.
yeah,
You
I've
know,
seen one that like it was handicap. It looked handicap in the face. It was very interesting.
I've heard that too.
So
I've heard that
yeah,
like I don't know what the right term is, but
I don't want
like
to.
Down syndrome looking
Yeah, Down
sometimes.
syndrome. Yeah, and he was behind my house. Like he looked, and he was young too. He's the one that I took a picture of trying to get in through my window.
Oh, that's the one that's bent over looking in your window, like standing up on something.
Yeah.
Now,
So no,
what state do you live in now?
right now I'm in Tennessee just because I've had some medical issues. So I'm going to a hospital that is helping me. After Thanksgiving, my health has not been the same. I've had pulmonary embolisms in both lungs, been in the intensive care unit. I just had heart surgery. So I believe that these things, and I haven't talked about this to anybody, but I believe that when you have encounters like I did and how I was attacked on Thanksgiving, there's something that has made a lot of us researchers sick. Like I've talked to a lot of researchers that are having health issues, heart, stroke. I've had strokes. Um, I don't know if it's radiation, if it's like something with, I don't even know. I don't know, but it's just kind of unusual to me that a lot of researchers like myself that I've gotten really close to them have gotten really, really sick. I'm just not the same anymore. I used to hike 10 miles a day in the rugged terrains of the woods. I've been to every state. I went to Land of the Lakes yesterday. We just got back. So it's just it's hard. It's a lot of mysteries and not enough answers, I guess.
Do you go looking for these things anymore, Claudia, or are you just done? You don't
I
want to know.
I'm not done because I still want to do the court case, but I
Right.
need to recover right now because I was almost dead a couple times. You know what I mean? So right now I got to focus on my health. So the pulmonary embolisms, the doctors were like, you have two clots in both of your lungs. Like most people die from one. You're very lucky. So then they found a heart. I went into AFib. I have a catheter in my chest. They had to put a catheter in. So during surgery, I almost died. My blood pressure dropped, and I was in the intensive care again. So I've been in the hospital basically this whole year since I've been here. So, but I am planning to go back to California for
Did you
sure.
ever did you ever hear Mark Barton's testimony on Bigfoot Odyssey?
No. Yes.
That
Yes.
he was in outside
Now,
a cabin by himself, and something put his hand on his shoulders, and they said that they have the ability to make you die of natural causes and stuff.
yeah. I believe, and
I don't want to freak you out or anything. I'm just saying
no,
that's weird.
scary to me, and I haven't talked to anybody about this. I saw that man in that black hood where I lived too. So
Right.
I actually reached out to Mark and I said, Mark, like I've seen that master with the black hood. Like I've seen him in California where I used to live. So, and I would go out to the woods and go Facebook Live, and I would see him come out like of the woods, and they have like a robe with a black like cape, and I'm looking at it going, it's a human. It looks human, but with a black robe with a cape, and I'm like, is this like a person that's stalking me, or is this like paranormal? What is this? And I would walk away because I got a really bad feeling about this man, really bad feeling. So
That's
I
crazy.
believe they can hurt you physically because I'm only 40 something years old. I forgot how old I am. I really forgot.
I
But
forget sometimes too.
for me to have so many health issues after I got attacked, it's weird for me. I used to be so healthy hiking and everything.
Now hold
So
on. How did you get attacked again?
they
Is it
came in and there was blood everywhere. Like um they took my phone and they hid my phone where the pots and pans were. And I called 911 when they were trying to come in the house, and I called them and I was having trouble breathing because they zapped me. So the 911 operators said that I called 911 too much because the times that they were trying to come in the house, I would call 911 and say, please come, there's an intruder coming into the house. I'm not going to say a Bigfoot's trying to come into the house, but then
right?
the police come and they'd find these huge tracks with 5 toes. And they admitted to me, these are weird tracks. Like this is a big footprint, like, and I was like, come on, we know it's not human. Come on. You know exactly what's trying to come in my house. And they came maybe twice or 3 times. So on Thanksgiving Day, I called 911 and she says like, you called 911 too much. I'm sorry, due to the weather, we can't come and help you. So she goes, I hope we'll try later. Like, we hope you feel better. Bah, hung up on me. And at that point they came in and it was just bad. It was all bad. So 4 days later, I'm laying on like the floor and I was zapped so much that I would get up and I would fall over. And then I found somebody messaged me on Messenger. I heard my phone ring and I crawled to the kitchen. I found my phone in the pots and pans and I grabbed it. And I had 2% left on battery because they took my electricity off. I had no electricity. And I called my brother and I just said, like, I'm dying. Like, please tell the girls I love them. Like, I'm really, really sick. And I didn't want to tell him what happened. And he's like, just hold on. And the fire department came with like a bulldozer. And like the paramedics came in the house and they looked at the blood and they said, why didn't you call earlier? Like, what happened? What happened to you? And I was in the intensive care unit for 7 days. And since that day, I never went back to the house. I left all my stuff, everything, just like my name,
Was this in Tennessee or California?
California, where I had the sighting of the creatures. So we
Wow.
moved to like where we had the sighting to another house that's like right there. And we found like structures behind the house and it was very isolated. Like it didn't have a lot of neighbors and stuff. So, I mean, all those orbs that people see are real. Like I've seen those like flying around my house a lot. Like every night they would come, every single night. And the cool thing is that the Ring doorbell is like a security system. It's an alarm system.
Right.
So what instead of having it in the front of the house, I moved it to the back of my house so you could see my house and the woods. So it would alert me because they would try to come in a lot. They would walk on the balcony, So I have a lot of pictures of them like trying to get in or standing by the shed, and I could see them at night. Like I would turn my Ring on, I could see them walking around the backyard. So I would take pictures of it, screenshots. So, and it's all recorded on the Ring. So I have video of them like walking around with like the orbs getting bigger and bigger. They got huge. They can go from like a golf size like round circle to like huge. So it's pretty amazing. So for court, I have all this video to show.
Now, do you have a website or YouTube channel with all of this stuff on it?
I don't have a website. I don't have a YouTube channel. I'm just on Facebook. I don't have time. I'm a mom.
Right.
Um, I've been sick, and I used to work full time in the medical profession, but during my surgery, I just had heart surgery, so I haven't been working. But I just don't have the time right now. Just dealing with preparing for the court case and taking care of my daughters, and just doing that.
So the court case is basically, you're
And
suing California because they didn't make the public aware of these things and they're dangerous.
well, it's species protection because I mean, I don't believe all of them are bad,
Oh,
but
you want to protect them too?
I mean, I want them to be acknowledged for one. That's like
Right.
number one. I want the public to be aware that they're out there. And then once they're out there, maybe they could do something about species protection. Even though I was injured, it's hard for me to say that now because now I have this bitter taste in my mouth. And now, just so everybody knows, I'm not suing for a cent. I don't want a penny from the government. Obviously, I don't want fame because you look like a nut to 90% of the
Oh yeah.
public. So why am I doing this? For safety for my humankind, for sure. That's like my number one goal. Because I think to myself, if like that Sasquatch that ran next to my daughter and picked her up and took her, what am I going to do? Call 911 and say like a Bigfoot just took my kid? I'd be in jail for murder, I'm
Yeah.
sure. So,
Exactly.
and it bothers me because like if I killed someone and like 50,000 people saw me murder somebody and I go to court and all those 50,000 people go and testify for me, then I'd be in jail for murder. So why is this different? All these people have sightings. Why is
Yeah.
it so different? You know, are we all liars and hoaxers? No. You know, so
It only takes one person to be telling the truth
oh, absolutely.
for it to be real. Now, the um, the the whole thing about Bigfoot, and I've listened to a lot of Christopher Noel, and he seems very comfortable, but I think that he's cautiously aware of them, and I think he understands. My point of view is they're like humans or dogs. There are some bad ones,
Yeah.
and there are some good ones, and
Yeah.
that what you ran into that day was probably a bad one. You know, angry or, I mean, we do a lot of bad. I bet you these things have been shot so many times by redneck hunters and stuff that,
That bothers me.
yeah, I bet you it's happened so many times, and
Yeah.
we don't. And I think that they're a self-aware creature. They're not going to just leave a body of their, you know, their relative in the middle of the woods. They're going to pick them up and bury them, just like we do.
Right. Yeah.
So
And they're
I,
very intelligent. If you saw the intelligence of these guys, or like this is like examples. Like Ed would be with me. We'd be watching TV, and like our doorbell would ring and knock, do 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 do, ding dong. And I told him, "Don't get up. It's them. Don't answer it." And he's like, "No, it's not them. Like I'm gonna go open the door." So he goes and opens the door. He's like, "There's nothing out there," because they imitate us. They like to play games. They have a personality. They have humor. I mean, a lot of them that I saw were funny. They were funny. They like to play games. Um, Only a couple of them I thought were really scary looking, like the red eyes that glow. Like, you know, they talk about the red eyes. I've
yeah.
seen those at my house at night. So I agree with you. I think some are good and some are bad. And I don't think their intent is to hurt us. They want to be respected. It's their home. And I understand that. So,
Well, this time last week, this is Saturday night. Exactly this time last week, we were hunkering down to go to sleep for the night.
yeah.
And like I said, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and this thing's like walking around our campground. And you know, I had all these visions that I would, you know, if this happened, I would get my iPhone and like zip a tent down and like try to get a photograph of it, but I froze
Yeah.
because this thing sounded so big, and it was like, you know, when you wake up anyway, you're always kind of like a little anxious when you first wake up, and this is in the middle of the woods in a known area that has activity, and
Oh,
and you hear this thing walking around outside your tent, and the other guys are sleeping, so you're by yourself.
oh, yeah.
So I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, do I yell and then this thing's going to know I'm there and tear me apart? You know, these are the things that are going through your head because you don't know.
Yeah.
So even if it is a human being, that's still freaky enough. But I know it's not, because in Oklahoma, everybody's got guns. You're not going to just walk
Yeah.
through someone's campsite, you know. And it wasn't a bear because we had grease pans and stuff out. We had ice chests. Nothing was disturbed. The thing was just walking through. And that whole night, that whole day was just, it wasn't, the day before, it was kind of like, you know, it was like an orchestra in the woods. There was lots of animals and birds and like frogs. But that day, the whole day, we went down to this certain section. It's called the Bottoms. It's like a kind of a swampy area.
Yeah.
And we had a weird feeling after that. I'm like, the woods have went dead. And that whole night, the woods were just like, it was like a tomb. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I was thinking to myself, something's going to happen tonight, you know? And we didn't, all of my audio was from the night before. That day when everything went quiet, there was nothing, no tree knocks, not even any frogs. It was just like dead. And then that thing came walking into my camp. So I'm thinking they were watching us that whole day.
Oh, sure. You were like a show for them, for sure.
Right. And I'm very loud. So when I had the audio player out there, Dave, the researcher from Bigfoot and More, and his son were talking away to me, but all I could hear was my big loud voice booming over the forest. I'm like, God, I am loud. You know, my wife was right.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary, but it's funny because you do think, look, I want to ask those researchers, what would you do if it did come to you? Like, what would you do? Because people think about like going out there and seeing one, but then what do you do if like one comes at you? What are you gonna do? You know what I mean? So
well, they do what happened to you, especially with kids.
Yeah.
But at least you didn't like lose your shit. At least you kept your composure and you were a bit of a tiger mom in that moment. You thought about your kids.
Yeah, of course. I was also stunned because I was thinking like, this cannot be happening. Like I've gone to look for you all over for the last 6 years and I have not like seen you, and now like you're surprising me with my kids. This is really not happening. So, you know, like I also did something. I took my kids the next day just with people for security reasons. But like I wanted them to see for themselves that, okay, look, he's not there anymore. They're not there anymore. Because apparently there was two that was below the tree that ran next to my daughter. There was two of them. And I just found out from my daughters, like, I thought we were all looking at the same creature. And my daughter goes, no, I was looking at the one on the ground over here. And my daughter goes, no, I was looking at this one over here. So there was three of them that we were all looking at someone different that time at that moment.
Now the other two, where were they? Like you're facing the tree.
They're below the tree. You can actually see one with white on his head. He has like a white, like if you look good at the picture, you can look down, you can see like a face of one, and like he's got like a little white on his forehead. And I didn't even see those. I was too like looking at the big alpha male. You know, I was looking at him. So
but they ran past your daughters.
Yeah, my one daughter. When I was taking that picture I sent you yesterday with my daughter posing for the camera,
right,
and my walking, two of them ran at that moment. And it's when I stopped paying attention to my surroundings is when they ran next to her, and they ran behind the big one, the alpha male. So, yeah, it was like, it's pretty scary to think that they were that close to her. And then she said that the one that behind it that ran wasn't even looking at her, but the one that was in front, I think it was like a mother, daughter, mother, a young, and like the dad. So, but
well, we always have these accounts that they're really interested in children.
I know, and I wonder why. Especially my daughter, that young. You know, they say that if they're Nephilim, they like to take women. You know, and you have all these things that go through your mind. Like, are these Nephilim? I used to think like they were alien related just because I saw the orbs around my house, and I have paranormal abilities. I do. I have to say it because I'm about truth, and I've seen some things that I can't understand. But a lot of things, like my lights would flicker on and off in my house, just weird things. You know, I don't know if it was like ghosts or paranormal. It was all around. But then I wonder where the alpha, because when I rebuke them in the name of Jesus Christ, they flee. They would flee. Like, and I wonder, you know, makes you wonder if it was alien, why would they flee when I rebuke? So
it's funny that people will totally accept the ghost theory and aliens and stuff. They'll believe all of that, but when it comes to Sasquatch, where we actually have physical evidence, they think it's a load of crap.
It is. I don't understand that either. You know, but
well, it's mostly people who haven't spent time in the woods and they haven't actually looked into it. If you don't look into it, it just sounds like, I always thought that Bigfoot was like the Loch Ness Monster. There was one of them, and he was walking around the woods up in the northwest somewhere, and some people had seen him. Then I spoke to, actually, Crystal Panic mentioned you earlier. She had spoke to you from New Hampshire. She's a
Oh,
researcher. Yeah,
okay.
Crystal from New Hampshire. And she was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I spoke to her about this. And I'm like, oh, wow. I didn't know you knew her. And she was the first person I ever interviewed about Bigfoot. I'm like, wow. I thought it was, this is 2 years ago. I thought it was just,
Yeah.
like the Loch Ness Monster, which I don't really believe in. I thought it
Yeah.
was just another one of those cryptid things but then when I started speaking to people like hunters and cops, and like the guy that I researched with in Oklahoma, he's an ex police officer.
Oh,
This guy is as credible as you'll get,
yeah.
and he's just not the lion type. You
Yeah.
can kind of tell. Especially in the Bigfoot community, you can kind of read people, so you adapt this sense of like, is he bullshitting me or is he not? And
Yeah.
you fine tune your senses, and then you figure out who to believe in and who not to believe in. And then that's when I heard your story. I heard you in Chris Noel's
Yeah.
podcast. I'm like, oh, I got to have this lady on my story or on
Oh,
my podcast because she's telling the truth.
I appreciate it. I want to help people. It's important to me. If I can help one person, it's all worth it. So, and I hope my daughters, when they get older, they'll do something to help other kids that see it or, who've been through it. So I
Well,
hope that's my dream and my wish. So,
what I do with my kids is and my wife's like, oh, it's all bull crap. But after listening to 411 and stuff, when I'm out in the woods now, they're always where I can see them,
yeah, please be careful.
because,
Yeah, especially with kids, and it's like scary, all the stuff that's happening in the woods. It's like all these missing people, and the government doesn't care. It's the truth. What the government doesn't know, they will not acknowledge. It's something I don't know.
well, you remember the spotted owl and what havoc that created on the lumber industry. It cost, I think it was 5 billion in
Yeah,
damages because of this one bloody owl.
yeah.
Can you imagine if a Sasquatch species like littered around the country would do to the lumber, the state
Oh,
parks, the mining and stuff?
I know,
There's a lot of
but
money involved.
it's their home. So I always wonder, like, are they gonna finally come out with it and say, like, I don't know if I'm gonna win the court case or not, but it's like at least I'm gonna try, and maybe if I don't win, at least maybe in 10, maybe 50 years, somebody will
Yeah,
come and look at my and say, you know what, she tried this angle, let's try this angle.
yeah.
It's some. I hope I win, but if I don't, I'm not dumb. I don't have a body, but it's like I don't think you need a body to prove something. I think you need some honest people that will go and testify for you and say, look, I'm not doing this for money. I'm not suing for money. This is costing me a fortune. And also, it's embarrassing because people think you're crazy. But why am I here? To protect children, to protect the public, to let them know it's not just bears, mountain lions, and snakes that are dangerous out there. At least give the people the choice to go out there when knowing what's really out there, not
It,
just the.
yeah. It'll take some legislator
I hope.
that that will take it on, and maybe in 10 years.
Yeah.
Part of me doesn't want them to be
No.
recognized as some species because I know what's going to happen. The people with money will move in there, and sometimes stuff like this can go south if people
Yeah.
with agendas and stuff can get involved.
Well,
So there's
that's why I want protection because I don't want, if it does come acknowledged, I don't want them to be killed. Those people that will go out with guns to try to kill them. But
mm,
I mean, honestly, when you look at one, especially a male alpha, and you go shoot at it, you better be careful because there's going to be 5 or 6 that are going to come at you, and good
yeah.
luck.
Well, even Kerry that time when he saw the one that was 8 foot tall, 100 feet away from him, he had a shotgun, and he's like, if this thing comes for me, it's going to have to be like a very short distance away before I can do damage to it. And even
Yeah.
then, it's still going to get me before it goes down.
Yeah.
So
It's better
it's
just to,
creepy.
yeah. It really traumatized him, and he's just one of many. Carrie's
Oh,
like donor. I mean, his like love was like hunting in the woods, and now he doesn't hunt anymore. It's like that was taken away from him too. And I really I encourage people like him that are kind of hunters and big strong guys that come out and say, oh my gosh, like it's terrifying, because it is. It's really scary. So,
Yeah, I'm going to be on Kerry's show on Tuesday night. I'm
oh,
excited.
he's a great guy.
Oh yeah. Well, he's not actually going to be there. He's on an expedition in Florida right now with Christopher Noel, actually.
Yeah, with Mark. Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
I stopped it because of the COVID, and I knew they were going to go back out. So.
Oh, awesome. Well,
So,
listen, Claudia, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for listening to my story. Please stay safe, and please be kind to everybody everywhere. So, thank you, my friend, for having me on.
All right, appreciate it, Claudia.
Okay, thank you.
Bye now.
Good.